while I wait.
There we go. Hi, David.
You're not on the beach today.
No. Yeah.
That's
That's
good.
yes. Oh, but I'm really glad it's raining. We have our 4 feeder ponds that feed 4 tidal ponds are dry.
Yeah,
So
those
that's-
are well.
yeah. But that is my practice spot at the beach.
Yep.
That's where I go.
I know, you showed me that.
So am I the only one here?
No, I'm expecting Jeff and maybe Dave and maybe Billy O.
Oh, okay. Well,
Carol has to take her mom to the doctor, and Dave has a very busy Monday. I don't know exactly what that means, but he said he would try to Zoom. Here's Jeff.
I was planning to drive out, so I called the doctor and it was today or a month from now. So I had to,
That's that's really not a question at all.
oh, you can't see my head.
No, that's all right.
I have it set. There you go.
There's Jeff's head.
Oh,
I'll see what I can do about getting the rest of my body into the picture.
Oh, good.
So I always have to, my camera always gets knocked out of alignment in the 2 weeks.
Of
between
Of
classes.
course, of course. How are you, Jeff?
I'm good, thanks. Next class, we are actually going to be in Connecticut, but we are leaving on that same Monday, and I'm not sure. I'm going to check what time our flight is because either I'm going to try and be there in person or I'm not going to make the class. So it's one or the other.
Okay.
It's all or nothing. I'm actually going to take a real quick look now. Oh, maybe we will be able to make it. We depart at 5:50. So I may try and come in person next time,
Well, that'd be cool.
but I will certainly let you know what's happening. So it'll either be in person or not at all, I think, depending on what's happening with my parents and all
Yeah.
that kind of stuff.
How are
So,
they doing?
poorly, actually. Really, my mother's doing extremely poorly. Yeah, her mental illness is progressing rapidly, and she doesn't even understand or acknowledge that she is off at all mentally. She thinks the rest of the world is against her, and
Hmm.
it's just it's a very difficult situation. That's in addition to all of her many physical problems. So that's why I kind of have to leave everything in flux when we're there, because
Yeah.
last time we were there, she ended up in that, we saw her once for dinner, and then the next day we were supposed to meet him again, and she kind of lost it mentally and ended up in the hospital for 10 days after that. So
Oh, gee.
it is, but thank you for asking. She always asks how you're doing when she knows that I've seen you, or she
Oh,
knows that
really?
I'm in
Oh,
class. Yeah, she remembers you. Yeah.
that's nice.
So yeah, so I will let you know, but I mean, I really would like to make it up there. It'll be
Oh,
Kate,
yeah.
Nancy, and I again. So they can entertain themselves for an hour.
2 weeks from now is Labor Day. You have a class on Labor Day, David?
Yeah, that's the kind of guy I am.
Oh, maybe I'm thinking of 3 days. Is that 2 weeks from now? I'm thinking 3 weeks.
Nope.
Oh, Labor Day. No, Labor Day, I won't be there actually then. Oh, wow. I'm getting my schedule mixed up. We will be there the Monday after Labor Day.
Okay.
That's a bummer. Well, maybe I can, if I have time, I'll contact you to see if there's a time when we can stop by just to say hi, whether it's Monday or another day. We'll see how your schedule is.
Or if you want to do a short lesson,
Okay. All right.
be good for me to actually see you.
Sure. No, that would be great. Yeah, because I will actually have to miss Labor Day then, because we are going to be traveling that day that way, up to Connecticut. So.
And I can tell you now, I'll be online on Labor Day. I can't leave for that chunk of time on Labor Day.
Okay.
Mrs. Mayor duties,
Well,
anything like that.
it seems that you guys are it.
Okay.
So,
Andy, stop.
yep. Did you want to say something, Jeff?
No, I'm actually going to put one of my dogs outside. She's getting a little rambunctious. I thought they were going to be restful through this, but she's not. So,
Okay. All right. How's your boy doing, Joyce?
because I'm little, I got to sneak in a secret place at the airport that you weren't really supposed to go. So when he got off the plane, after flying the plane, the first person he saw was me. And he came running, the biggest grin with he grabbed me and picked me up and hugged me. He was so excited. Yeah, because he's big now, you know?
Yeah,
So he was just, it was a great week. He loved every single part of it. So as far as I know, he's doing great. He's visiting in Virginia.
Ah.
So he'll be back by the end of the week.
good.
So, yeah, it was.
I'm glad that was good for him.
Oh, it was. But Keith said to me, "Who's more excited, you or Bruno?" Okay, I was excited for the whole week, but it was because he would come home and he would be chitter chatter, and so I knew he was excited and I was excited for him. So that was just, I wouldn't have missed that second for anything. That second that he saw me and came running, was great. I'll remember that. So good memories.
Good. Okay. Well, it may not sound like much to you, but the Ting Show is really ringing today.
Yeah, I didn't hear it for some reason. I can hear your voice, but I didn't hear anything at all from the Ting Show. Yeah.
It's very weird.
Right.
I didn't hear it either, but I could see it, and I could see it going on for a long time. So, yeah.
Okay, either of you have questions, reports, problems, successes?
I still have a fair amount of, or a lot of, getting more familiar with the bending and the stretching parts of both the form and the double hand, but even more so the form.
Yep.
It's gonna take time and practice, which I haven't put enough of into yet, but some of it just isn't intuitive to me yet.
Well, some of it's counterintuitive, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Indeed. Okay, Joyce?
I certainly could use much more practice on that. I'm just at the beginning, and I'll start and then my mind goes someplace else and I forget all about bending and stretching.
Aha.
But that's certainly a great focus. The part that in the two arm, if I can try to explain, the first 7 and 8, that first 7 into 8 that is a place that I tend to lose everything because it just doesn't feel right.
Mm-hmm. What do you mean it doesn't feel right?
It doesn't feel it's not an instinctive move to especially going the transition from 7 into 8. That's 7 sort of comes and I sort of feel it, and then I'm so focused on trying to get into 8 that I can't think about bending or stretching or where my energy is going or anything, because I just can't get the move into 8. Is that better?
Yeah, okay.
Or keep, and I've been working on keeping my midriff open. That's what I've been working on, because I missed a class, Jeff. So I've been working on that for a month.
That's
And just reminding myself wherever I am, whether I'm practicing or not practicing, to try to remember to do that. That's been my focus for the month. But anyway, I just can't figure that out.
okay. We'll look at that. and I, it's a change from the movement you're doing in the single arm, which is why I think it gives people difficulty. Once you get it, it feels so right that you can't imagine doing it any other way.
Yeah.
But I recognize that it's not intuitive, and that's one of the things. I had a whole discussion with another student, private student, on Saturday about the fact that Tai Chi, from a martial standpoint, is one of the few Chinese martial arts where you do a number of things in what seems the counterintuitive way. And certainly we have that in this practice. And so it's learning that you can intend and direct your energy to go in whatever way you want it to go. It doesn't always have to go in only one direction. And unfortunately, we don't grab that easily sometimes.
David, a question related to that. So now you've got me thinking and curious. When you say related to martial applications, sometimes Tai Chi is counterintuitive. Is that because Tai Chi relies more on the energetic movement than other types of martial arts?
Partially, yes, although it certainly doesn't rely on it more than some others, like Bagua or Xingyi, or there are a couple more even.
Right.
So that's not the only thing, but Tai Chi is the only one where you do things like shifting backward when you're striking, which almost no other martial art does.
Right.
And so that is really counterintuitive, because here you have a backward movement of your body and a forward movement of the energy and your intent. And it can be very useful because it gives you the opportunity to apply at moments when your movements actually seem to be retreating or deflecting.
Right. Does that also help to keep your center hidden in those moments?
Well,
because it is so counterintuitive. Like if you are in a sparring, your opponent would not expect that.
I think part of it is that you maintain constant awareness of your center,
Right.
And yes, your opponent loses that awareness because of your movement being counterintuitive.
That makes sense.
Okay.
So it's particularly in this very short form, I was thinking of needle at sea bottom, and we'll get there a little bit later today, and we'll look at that, because we have that in that particular posture, where we have a rising arm movement that's bending in and a sinking arm movement that's extending out, and the body is doing the opposite. So our first thought is, oh, that can't be right.
Right.
Because it doesn't go along with the everything going in the same direction, which is where we start, because that's more easily absorbed and understood. But it's not the only way.
Right.
I'll just to tease your or pique your interest. I'll just say that that's one of the things that comes up in God's plane in the clouds, which is the most advanced Negong practice that in this particular group of that we work on. And one of the things you discover in that eventually is that you can do everything in at least two ways. And that there is no one right way. So that's part of what this is leading to. So the first thing I wanted to do was just to start with a very simple bend and stretch exercise, just to remind you a little bit about that. So if you'll stand up. And what I'm going to want you to do is just step out and go into your basic standing position. And remember, you want to let your quad be relaxed and find a well-grounded connection to the earth. And indeed, having your midriff open. And simply working with one arm, and start with it out. And thinking of this as extension. So remembering our 70% rule, extension is not here, extension is here. And that also means that bent is not here, but here. So the range is in the middle. But if you start extended here, and the movement is just pulling the energy in and extending the energy out. And the thing I want you to begin to be aware of in terms of bend and stretch is that the fingers are bending, the hand is bending, the wrist is bending, the elbow is bending, the shoulder is bending, the scapula are bending, and you're connecting to the spine. And when you go out, the scapula are moving out, extending, the shoulder is opening, the elbow is extending, the wrist is extending, the hand is extending, and the fingers are extending. And remember not to straighten the fingers all the way. And so those movements are what are going to help you pull the energy in and extend the energy out. And that will take us further with this next time we get together. But for the moment, just being aware of feeling how everything is bending and everything is extending. And in this particular exercise at the moment, we're just doing the arms. And if you're feeling really comfortable with the arms, then you could also think about adding the legs and allow them to bend and extend. And so the quad bends, the knee bends, the ankle bends, the feet bend, the toes bend and they extend. So every part, and there are even, of course, parts in the torso that we haven't talked about. There is spinal movement, but we'll leave that for the moment. So if you can get the arms and the legs to coordinate so that all those parts are extending and bending simultaneously, that will help encourage the flow of the energy through the body. Just keep trying that for a minute. Let me. Remember, you want to keep the elbows no more than 45-degree angle. So they are endeavoring always to connect to the earth. And you want all of that movement, fingers, hands, wrists, elbows, shoulders, to all be sequential. One of the ways that Bruce talks about this kind of thing is that the first way you want to work with it is to think about it in terms of the game of pool, so that you have one ball hitting the next one, hitting the next one, hitting the next one. So as you're doing this, you're thinking of your fingers, and then your hands, and then your wrist, and then your elbow, and then your shoulder, and then your scapula, and then reversing that step by step, getting very clear about that. And the bending.
I have a question. Yes. Is that sequential then, David? So when you are pulling in, you start with fingers, then wrists and elbows and shoulders and scapula, and then scapula, shoulders, elbows, wrists and hands and fingers?
Yep. So
that
that's what we call the pool ball method, because well, it helps you keep in mind that it's a sequence. When you have that sequence functioning clearly, then you want to move to what we call the water hose, where just like a water hose, when you turn it on, it goes all the way through. So as soon as you begin, you're actually moving all the way from fingertips to spine, even though it continues moving. And then you're moving all the way from the spine to the fingertips and projecting outward. And those movements are just continuous. But the pool, thinking about it in terms of the pool ball method, is how you make sure that you're not allowing the energy to get blocked anywhere along the way. Okay. So questions about that?
One, so when we're bending, why is our movement starting with our fingertips instead of also starting with our scapula and drawing in? Which
Because we're thinking here about the energy movement. And the energy has to flow from one end of the circuit to the next, to the other end.
Right.
So when you're bending, it's flowing in. And when you're extending, it's flowing out.
Right.
And so you're thinking about that whole circuit. This is a circular circuit. It's not, certainly not.
Okay.
And yes, it is true that the energy is always flowing in both directions constantly.
Right.
However, we intentionally focus on one aspect at a time.
Okay. I wasn't thinking enough of the energy movement. I was thinking more of beginning our actual physical movement more from the center, drawing both legs and arms in from the center rather than.
So that becomes evident when you get to the water hose method. That's why I was trying to distinguish between these two different practices.
Okay.
That you need to get the sequence first.
Right.
And then you can begin to get the flow of the water. And indeed, it's happening all at once. My scapular are going instantly as soon as my fingers start. As soon as I draw the energy in, my scapular are moving. I'm not saying they're not.
Right. Okay.
But you're being aware of the energy moving from your fingers to your hand to your wrist.
All right.
So
I think there was a little misunderstanding on my part, or taking you too literally when you said sequential rather than also simultaneous. I think I took you too literally, I think. And said, I got to start here and start going. So.
Well, it is confusing because there's no question that ultimately you want it all to be happening at once. But what usually happens to people when they start to focus on this is that they will feel the energy moving. If they don't really build it up, they will feel it in their fingers and hands and maybe their wrists, and it gets stuck in the elbow. And they don't know why.
Right.
And they end up saying, there's no movement between my elbow and my shoulder. I have a number of students working on that at the moment.
Right. Okay.
And it really is because they haven't developed the sequence of the flow so that it can flow all at once.
Right. Okay. All right. Well, that's much more clear. Thank you.
Surely. Oh no, I appreciate your question. So that's a good way to just practice that without having to think about the movements, the other movements that of which we have more than sufficient, perhaps. So let's go to the double arm. I don't want to, I'm going to let you work on doing this in the standing meditation practice on your own. Let's go to the double arm so that we can have, I want to have a chunk of time to work on the form today.
Yeah.
So I'm presuming that you're talking about that movement. I'll just get up to it. After we've started into this, and I'm presuming you're not talking about this 7/8, because that one's easy. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And here's the one that causes everybody difficulty. You're entering the S curve. You just come up here. So you're entering the S curve, but you're just turning and letting yourself sink a little. Just sit down a little. You're not dropping a lot, but you're just letting yourself relax into that. And just as you get through that first part of the S curve, that's the end of 7. And 8 is rotating and shifting forward and extending out into the end of that posture. So if I turn this here, so we've come up to 6 and we're facing forward. And then we go into the S curve, so we have just rotation here, and then rotation and shift forward into 8. And
One more time, David. I think I got it. Go.
is it better to see me this way than sideways?
Yes.
I thought it might be. So let's go back to the beginning. So I won't mirror because I think that's not good for you. Is that right?
That's okay. Don't mirror, right? That's
Yeah.
fine.
Don't
Okay.
mirror for me either.
Okay, I mean, I can, but
No.
No, that's okay. No.
okay. So stepping out, coming into center, rotate, step forward, 7, 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, turn, stay back, 7, 8, 7, 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So did that clarify the movement, Joyce?
Yes, it's coming. So if you could do it one more time. So when you're at 7 and you're back weighted, your body is facing the corner, not facing forward. And then as you rotate, you come forward, but your weight stays back. Is that
So
right?
at 6, your weight is back. And you're
Okay.
facing forward.
Yes.
On 7, you're turning left. And on 8, you're turning right and shifting forward.
How much do you shift forward at that point is my question.
Dynamic limit.
Oh, okay. So you're not leaving much for the next movement as far as more shifting.
You're not shifting in the next movement.
You just rotate.
Yep.
Okay, that's my
So
question.
6, 7, 8, 7, 8, 1, 2, 3.
So that second 7 and 8 is just rotation. There's no shifting in that.
That's right.
Okay, that was my question. Thank you.
You okay with that, Joyce?
Well, as as okay as I can be right now.
Yep, okay.
It
You
is
you
much
feel like you
better.
understand what you want to be doing.
Yes, yes, yes,
Okay.
my brain knows it.
Okay. Good. Now let's talk about bending and stretching. Because that was Jeff's question.
Right.
So when you start with feet together, and the first thing you're going to do is shift into the right and rotate and sink your bending. And then you step out, and as you rotate and come to center, you're actually extending. Excuse me, those movements are small. They're not big. They're subtle movements. They're not huge. And then as you continue, as you're turning the leg, you're bending again, and you're continuing to bend all the way until you complete your step. And then extending as you rotate and shift through 7 and 8. And then bending on 1, 2, 3. And then on 4, you're beginning to extend. And you continue at 5 and 6. On 7, you're actually bending. And on 8, you're extending. And then 7, 8, you're continuing to extend up to the top. And then bend 1, 2, 3. Extend 4, 5, 6. And the extension continues in 7 and 8. Okay, so notice that instead of a continual alteration between bend and extend, there are places where the extend continues through or the bend continues through. So it's not, it is counterintuitive. But do you have a question in there?
No.
Is that clear, Jeff?
Yeah. Yes, it's mostly, when I think of it in the right way now, it's mostly having practiced it a bit more. It's becoming more intuitive.
Okay.
Especially the longer extensions or extending.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just need to work on some more. And then I send that transition at the very end, as you go back down to start over again, that's a bending, right?
Oh yeah, it is a bend.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Thank you. Hey, I'm good.
Okay. Good. So what I wanted to do was to go to the form, because I think that's where we haven't really spent very much time. And I really wanted to see if I can be really clear about this, not only for you two guys, but for the other people who aren't here.
Right.
So first thing, let's just do a flow through a couple of times and I'll talk it, but then I want to talk about some specifics to break it down in some ways. So begin Tai Chi. So bend and extend, bend, and extend, extend, bend, bend, extend, bend, extend, bend, extend, bend, extend, bend, and continue bending and extend and bend, extend, bend, extend, bend, extend, extend, bend, 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 extend. Anybody want to ask a question at this moment? Okay. So I want to go through this, and I think I'm going to do it facing you this time, just for so we're going to do some pausing in this, and so we're going to pause at the beginning or end of a bend or extend, and just talk a little bit about that. So as you begin Tai Chi, you sink and bend into that right leg and just pause for a moment. Make sure that you don't try to rotate too far. And one of the things is to be sure that while you are bending, remember that means that fingers have bent a little, wrists have bent a little, elbows have bent a little, shoulders, scapula, but not lifting the shoulders. And this should not be stiff, nor should it shouldn't be stiff, nor should it be limp. It's in between. It's relaxed and open. And that, of course, that movement is what sends the leg out, which is an extension, actually, followed by an extension of the arms and legs. And completing an extension is often where we tend to tighten up or lift our shoulders. So we want to keep all of that soft and open. And then bending as we rotate, and continuing to bend as you go to the step and as you shift forward to your dynamic limit, which remember isn't very far. So that's a small, subtle movement, but don't let that bend tighten up. It just bends, drawing the energy in. And then as you rotate and rise, extending to send the energy out. And again, make sure that you don't lift the elbows too much. Let the elbows angle down a bit. Don't lift the shoulders. Don't tighten up neck, back, chest, hips, legs, anything. Don't let a knee collapse. And then as you go into roll back, rotating and shifting back, but this is an extension. And martially, you could think of it as a throw, if you like. And then this is a bend in, just a rotation and bending in. So you've got to have everything bending in and not tightening up. And that bend continues to set up the first extension of push down. And then you have to bend in again, gathering a little, and push down again. And then as you shift forward and rotate onto that right foot, you're bending in, and it's the shift forward begins the extension, but it's the rotation where it really completes. And then going into cow, you're shifting forward and bending in. And that continues all the way through both steps. And you want to make sure that you bent everything and that you aren't tightening up nor too limp. And then as you rotate and shift into the posture, everything expands out. And it's not a huge movement, but it is there. And it's everything. It's feet, ankles, knees, quad, and fingers, wrist, elbows, shoulders, scapula, everything. And then the really counterintuitive one is in this sequence is needle. As you shift forward, you begin to bend. And then as you reset and begin to come back, you continue to bend. And this part is not too difficult. Okay, we bent through all of this. But you continue to bend as you rise on that right leg. So the arms continue to bend, and actually the spine continues to bend, but that's we're not working on that one yet. And then as you come down, this is the extension. So that by the time you get to the bottom, and again, this is somewhat counterintuitive because you're clearly bending the legs in order to do this. But everything else is extending because this is you have gone, part of what you're doing here is you go into a wrist lock and then you pull them down. So martially, I think you can understand that movement. But this is a place where physically you have a bend happening when you're extending the rest of the body, and straightening of the legs when you're bending the rest of the body. So you have to not let yourself get stuck there. And then once you've reached this point, and this is one where you really have to be aware that you have not allowed yourself to tighten up. You're not likely to have gotten too limp at this point. And it's only you are a little below your base level here. So that as you straighten the leg, you are bending. And you are just going to your base level. So you're not, from this point, going up and down. You are simply going just to your base level. And notice
that's still
that,
bending into there.
I'm sorry?
That whole motion up to that point is still bending in.
You're still bending in.
Okay.
And this arm, clearly you've formed a soft fist. It's bent in towards you. It's not crunched into you, but it has come in some. And the right hand, you can see clearly what this arm is doing is that it's gathering energy ready to project out through the left elbow. So the bend here from this point is preparing for this very devastating strike. And that, of course, is an extension. And then again, you're bending in until you get your through your step, and then plie, split. Actually, one version of single whip is an extension. And then you bend back in, and you're ready to bend a little bit more and then go into ward off right. Questions there? Things you want me to go over?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's the same thing, the same main problem as always in push down.
Push down, yeah, that's a toughie.
That's, to me, that's continues to be the toughest part.
Yeah.
Even more so than needle, that is difficult for me.
Would you start at the beginning and just go through push down so I can see what you're doing? Just hold on a second, let me, okay. Go ahead.
I'm starting with a bend, extend, bend, extend.
So you're late with that. It's part of the problem. You've got to do it sooner. So let's look at that. Also, I'm gonna go back to the beginning, because going into ward off right, there's one correction too. So let me just no, get out of here. So at the beginning, notice that during that step forward, yes, I bent a little, and during the shift, it is where it begins to lift. Don't let it lift from the shoulders, but let the shoulders, let the elbows drive the hands up, and in the rotation, go into the final part of the posture.
Okay.
Now so when you have completed rollback, you're turned a little bit to the left, your weight is back on the left foot. As you turn the right leg, which is 3 when we count, that's the bend.
Okay.
That's the bend for the beginning of the first push down.
Okay.
And it is really important that the body movement from here is going to go down and up in a scoop. It's half of a circle. That gives you that much more distance to work with than if you go straight.
Wow.
Okay, so you complete roll back.
Yeah.
Here you bent. As you begin to go down, that movement drives the back of the hands down. As you go through the bottom of your circle, that's where you bend the elbows back in and begin to turn the arms. And as you rise, that's where you do the second push downward. So it is difficult because so much happens in a fairly short period of time, but that half circle underneath is really important just to give you a little more space to do it. So when you complete rollback, you bend, extend, bend, extend. And you might want to work on this, breaking it down and do those 4 steps. You know, just take the time to sort of pinpoint those before you worry too much about flowing through them. Did that help?
Yes, it helps a lot. The problem that remains in my mind is what is happening in that undercurve that is causing it to go back, our hands to go back and forth and bend and extend rather than just one flowing smooth movement of extension. That's what always, I'm looking for something that's happening there that's causing the back and forth rather, and I exaggerate that, but rather than just a continued extension.
Yeah. So what's happening is that Master Joe is trying to teach you that you can push downwards with either the back of your arms or the front of your arms.
Ah, okay.
And so it's not easy. I would be the last one to say that because it took me quite a while to get it myself.
Okay.
But
Well, at least I understand it now, what the point is behind that and why it's there and why it's happening like that. And, because if we're doing a smooth curve, it's not like we're doing a zigzaggy curve or anything like that would kind of drive it. But okay, that does help actually. Okay.
And Jeff, in thinking about that arm movement,
Yeah.
if you think about using the elbows to move the scapula and the hands,
Okay.
that really, I think, is kind of the key.
Okay.
Because whether you can see this here or not, but the elbows come in, go out, come in, go out.
Oh, okay.
And they are connected directly to your scapula.
Right.
So that this can push the scapula in, out, pull it in and out. So staying in touch with your elbows through that movement, I think, can be really helpful.
Okay. Yes, now I can focus on the elbows and the C curve also, both of which will help.
Good.
Okay.
David,
Joy,
is there a circle happening in there somewhere with that in, out, in, out? And if
only
there
half
is,
a circle.
for both of them, half a circle?
Yes, you got it.
Okay.
So that's another reason why it's really difficult, because in other forms, you have a full circle to do that.
That's true.
And the full circle is, after you've done this, the full circle is easy. So
Well,
other other questions, Joyce?
no, that was I enjoyed that. That was interesting. And I certainly need a lot more practice, and I could hear you say that again. But it did, I understand it.
Okay.
I understand what you're trying to do there.
Okay, good. So if I understand correctly, the other one that's kind of an issue here is needle at C bottom, understandably.
Hmm.
What was that, Jeff?
Yes, I'm actually thinking, can you just go through press once or twice too?
Of course.
I think I know it, but I'm not 100% on the rotation and the or shifting and rotation and when
Let me
the
do it in
extending starts.
Let me do it in a couple of orientations.
Okay.
So when we've done push downward, as you shift into that right leg, notice that my arms begin to bend, but they are not rotating yet. When you can rotate towards the corner, drawing that left knee in, that's when the arms go to embrace the moon. And then as you continue, that's rotating right. You're now going to rotate left and step to the corner, and that's what causes the arms to continue to bend and to bring the right hand in to connect with the left forearm. And one of the important things in going into those two postures is to make sure that you step wide enough for your bow stance. That's not long enough, but wide enough. If you do it too narrow, it makes it very difficult to do a twist step, if not impossible. So you want to make sure that you step wide enough for your bow stance so that when you shift to your dynamic limit, you can easily rotate everything together into the end of that posture. So I'm going to go face the camera and do that. So if you're at push down, this all bends in, rotates in and out, shift forward, and twist step as you turn. So if you go to push down, You're going to bend in, shift, and extend into that press forward.
So the extend does not go until the final rotation and the press down. It doesn't begin with the shift.
It could, yes, it's actually beginning in that shift forward, but it completes in the rotation.
Okay.
Sorry if I wasn't clear about that. Yeah, so
There's a twist step of your right foot with that final rotation of press? Or,
yeah, your knee will be much happier if you do.
okay.
So the trick is that you have to make a wide step with that left foot when you're turning, so that when you get onto it, you can turn. And that will make it easy to do the twist step. If you don't step wide enough, the twist step's very hard to do.
And that twist step takes you into a regular bow stance.
You should be in a regular bow stance to the left corner when you do that. Complete that.
Oh, look at that. I learned something. I didn't know that. I didn't know there was a twist step there. Hey, thank you.
Yeah, well, that's why we're here. So, other questions?
That was good. That was helpful. Thanks.
Okay. So then, after we've done that, we do shoulder stroke. And here, you just want to make sure that you have extended in this position. And then as you shift forward, everything begins to bend. And you have to, excuse me, make the bending very subtle because it has to continue for a long time. So you're fully extended here, and then it begins to bend, and it continues to bend, and it continues to bend, and then it extends. And you want to end up facing straight ahead when you get to the end of that. So that means that when you go from a shoulder, it's really important how you reset that right foot. So you're shifting forward and turning left and turning that right foot in so that it becomes a shallower angle than 45 degrees. You don't want to leave it out there. So in other words, after you've done shoulder stroke and you shift forward, don't leave that foot in that same angle. You want from here, when you go forward, that there is a turn that turns that leg in. And then you continue rotating left so that you end up facing pretty much straight ahead. And you can let your left heel come up and pivot on the left toe when you come to this connection. And you're going to continue to bend as you take this person up and then extend down. Questions? No questions, huh?
No.
Do you feel you know what you want to be doing there?
Would you do it one more time?
Of course. Would it be more helpful sideways or facing you?
Facing me.
Okay. I'm actually going to go back. I'm going to do roll back and push down and bend in, step, shift, twist step, press forward, bend, extend cow, shoulder, shift forward, begin to bend, coming back and down, up. Now extend. Send all the energy out. And then into cow. Show elbow stretch.
Thanks.
Question?
That was helpful. That was helpful. Thanks.
Sure.
Good.
Okay, any other last minute questions?
No, that there was a lot of good clarity in that class, and that's good that it's on video too. So
Yep. Yes, I did remember to videotape today.
I saw that.
I agree. Thank you, David. Very helpful. I'm
Oh.
going to sit here and take a couple notes here, and then that's what I'll focus on.
All
Those
right.
things.
Great.
I can't say that I will come back and be able to do it, but I will.
Well, you'll work on it and we'll refine it.
Okay.
Good. Thank you.
All right.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Bye,
Thank-
David. Stay well. Bye-bye.
Bye, Joyce.
Thanks, you too.
Bye, Jeff.
Take care. So remember, I won't be there on Labor Day. And I will let you know what's happening. I'll be in touch with you and see what your schedule's like, and hopefully we can get up there at some point that's convenient for you.
Okay.
During our stay, we'll be there 4 days, basically.
Oh, good.
All right.
All right. Well, give me a ring or whatever, and we'll work it out.
Okay. Sounds good. Thanks, David.
You're welcome, Jeff. It's good to see you.
You too.
Say
Stay good
hi.
and healthy, and hopefully we'll see you soon.
Good. Say hi, everybody.
I will do that. Thanks.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.